Honey, don't walk out, I'm too drunk to follow. You know you won't feel this way tomorrow. Well, I'm a little rough around the edges and inside a little hollow. And I'm faced with something sometimes that are so hard to swallow. Hey, but I was born a rebel down in Beauty on a Tuesday morning. Of 1 foot in the grave, 1 foot's on the pedal. I was born a rebel. I was born a rebel. She picked me up in the morning and she paid all my tickets and screamed in the car and let me out in the thicket. Well, I never would have dreamed that her heart was so wicked. I keep coming back, 'cause it's so hard to kick it. Hey, 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 and I was born a rebel down in Dixie on a Sunday morning. Of 1 foot in the grave, 1 foot's on the pedal. I was born a rebel. I was born a rebel. Even before my father's father, well, they called us all rebels. They burned out our crops and they leveled our town. Well, I still feel the eyes of those red-coated devils, and I'm walking around tonight through the concrete and metal. Hey, 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 'cause I was born a rebel up in Beauty on a Tuesday morning. I've 1 foot in the grave, I've 1 foot on the pedal. I was born a rebel. I was born a rebel. Hey, 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 I was born a rebel. I was born a rebel. I was born a rebel.
If there be but 100 of us remain alive, never would we under any condition be brought under anybody's idea of a new world order. It is, in truth, not for honor, nor for glory, certainly not for riches that we are fighting, but for freedom. For that one thing alone which no honest person would give up, save with life itself. Once we were warrior poets. For now we must stand for peace. But if you hear my voice, you are the resistance, and our time is coming. A little bit of housekeeping to start with. We still haven't got our technical issues sorted. Both Alex and I are dealing with close family members who are, let's face it, terminal. In my case, that's quite imminent. Alex hadn't had time to test or get at the new system, so we're doing it old school. Also, on top of that, my car's clutch went this morning, So if it wasn't for bad luck, I'd have no luck at all. Consequently, tonight's briefing might not be as comprehensive as I would normally like it to be. That being said, let's get on with it. Yesterday saw the funeral of the Mad Hatter Lindsey Graham, the gay senator from South Carolina, whose sister is being shoved in as a replacement. I can't believe she'll be any better. It gave, however, a chance for the new axis of evil to meet in Washington, D.C. The original axis of evil was Nazi Germany, fascist imperialist Japan, 7.1 earthquake in Japan, and fascist Italy. Now, the parallels are very obvious. The video is also very telling. Netanyahu telling Hegseth and little Narco Rubio what to do, brushing off at Zelensky, who looked quite shocked and saddened as he was dismissed to the fifth row of mourners. But at least he started his tour in the UK aboard HMS Queen Elizabeth II, one of our two aircraft carriers, legacy aircraft carriers, which we don't have, never have had enough aircraft to fly from, which has broken down twice, which can barely make it out of fucking port, only for Andy Burnham to turn around and make the statement that, don't worry, he's going to not just fulfill all the commitments Kid Harmer, Starmer made to Ukraine, but will increase them. Anything else that Andy Burnham does is a load of nonsense and pile of shit. Anything coming out of the man's mouth doesn't matter when he is actively moving to take us to war against Russia. I'll come to Russia very shortly. But it looked very much like the US, that incontinent, decrepit Oompa Loompa with a God complex Trump. Except if he's got a God complex, I'm not quite sure what that makes Netanyahu, because he's the boss. Decided on what the next moves were going to be. Ukraine, if you remember, used a naval drone in the Caspian Sea to strike an Iranian ship. That was designed to conflate the Iranian war and the Russia-Ukrainian war into one. Basically to bring Europe and NATO into the Iranian war and to bring America and Israel into the Russia-Ukrainian war. They're not quite ready for it. As I said, Zelensky got the cold shoulder in Washington. Netanyahu refused to meet with him. That's the only guy he wanted to meet with. We didn't get the three-way meeting with Trump and Zelensky and Netanyahu, but we didn't get any press briefings either. They are moving us in a very dangerous way. But at the moment, Netanyahu did not want to piss off Russia. And so the Ukrainians have said now that it was a mistake to hit the Iranian ship. They thought it was Russian shadow fleet. So they've issued an apology to Tehran and are willing to pay reparations. Well, where does Ukraine get its money from? Ukraine gets its money from the US taxpayer, the UK taxpayer, the European taxpayer. So we're going to pay reparations, which will never fucking see the light of day because Zelensky is too much of a fucking greedy motherfucker. He's now left Washington and is flying to his other great bum chum, Coke King in France, Macaroni, to brief him, he says, on his meetings in Washington, D.C. Well, all these idiots, these lunatics in charge, are soon in for a very rude awakening. Because, and let's go then to Russia. I've always told you, don't listen to what the propagandists say, listen to what the actual decision makers in Russia say. Don't try and interpret Putin, just listen to him. Over the last couple of days, President Putin attended Russia's Naval Day and said quite a lot to the assembled naval commanders, admirals, etc. Said out loud that Western Ukraine was a gift from Stalin and a mistake, and that he fully expects those bits of Romania and Hungary and Poland that Stalin took land from to make Western Ukraine. He fully expects these countries to reabsorb those lands. Might not be tomorrow, he said, or the day after, but it will happen. In other words, he was signaling that Russia has decided Ukraine can no longer exist as a sovereign state. Andy Burnham says, oh, we'll uphold all our promises. Oh, very good. Then he talked about the piracy of America and the EU. And under international law, what they are doing is exactly that, piracy. That's why he's authorized Russian merchant vessels to have Russian naval escorts. Can everyone see where that's going? He also, as is traditional, handed out medals. That's important because his next engagement after that was to go to the Russian State Duma, their parliament. And at the Duma, speaking to the entire parliament, both bodies, he told a story. He said, I gave an award to one of our military heroes, and he said to me, President Putin, we're doing the right thing. We're winning the war, but we must go harder. And then Putin said to the parliament, to the Duma, should we go harder? And the Duma erupted in a roar of yes. That will mean consequences, said Putin. Are you prepared for them? Again, the parliament roared yes. That may mean more casualties, said Putin. Is Russia prepared for that? And again, the parliament roared yes. Anyone who thinks that Putin's approval ratings are going down is kidding themselves. Anyone who thinks that Putin's Russia First Party is going to suffer in the elections in September are kidding themselves on. What Putin just signaled was he is getting ready to decisively end this war. For all of you out there who have sometimes wondered what the fuck was going on, why it was taking Russia so long, why the West, why the propaganda, why the fucking Ukraine Nazis could say they were holding on. It's because Putin decided it was a special military operation, not a war. And because of that special military operation, he pretty much tied the Russian military's hands behind its back. He made it that he wanted little to no Ukrainian public, non-combatant deaths. He wanted to keep the deaths of Russian servicemen to a minimum. He did not want to punish brother Slavs for what a handful of crazed leaders were leading them on. And from the beginning, from February in 22, but building through 23, 24, the military and the Russian hardliners have consistently said, we need to go harder, we need to go faster. The Wagner revolt wasn't against Putin per se. It was because they felt they were being told they had to fight with one hand tied behind their back. And General Surovikin, General Armageddon, who had the greatest strategic insight to withdraw from Kherson and Kharkiv when the Ukrainians cowardly attacked the Russians, who had said, because they'd come to an agreement in Istanbul, that they would withdraw forces from around Kiev. As they were retreating, the Ukrainians stabbed them in the back, aided and abetted by Boris Johnson et al. Well, Surovikin was the man who came up with the defense line, the Surovikin line. the meat grinder that destroyed the Second Ukrainian Army. Why am I telling you or revising this history for you? It's simple. Because of his support for Wagner, who were taken out of the SMO and put into Africa and transitioned into the Russian Africa Corps, Surovikin was sent to take command of them. And he has utterly transformed the Africa Corps to the point where the French, UK, US jihadis, the ISIS jihadis in the Sahel, who have been terrorizing Mali, Burkina Faso, et al. They're now wiping the floor with them. They're mopping up. Surovikin has been recalled. Rumor is he is going to be put in charge of the taking of Odessa. The decision's now being made. Back at the very start of this thing, I told you that eventually, and it could have been done a lot sooner, and that's the only criticism of Putin that there's ever been. And the only reason that he's done what he's done is because he knows what will happen may well provoke open hostility in World War III. But the decision's now been made. After the elections in September, Putin is going to mobilize between 500,000 and 700,000 Russian veterans. And these veterans are not going to be expected to fight on the front lines in the main unless they volunteer. The fact that they're veterans means that they can be trained and put in the field almost instantaneously. What, 4-6 week, something like that. Fitness, basic training regime to get them ready. Because here's the thing. Over the last 3 years, Russia has been recruiting purely by volunteer between 30 to 40,000 troops every month. These troops are being given through 6 months training. Russia has been recycling the way it ought to be done when you have an army in depth. Battalions on the front lines. There's about 700,000 Russian troops currently engaged all across the front line of contact in Ukraine. But these soldiers are regularly rotated in and out so that all these battalions gain valuable battle experience and then get to rest and relax and reconstitute any losses. The likely 5 to 700,000 mobilization of veterans in September, they will be used to guard Russia's western borders and eastern borders, but mainly western borders. Whilst That will then free up not the 700,000 who are fighting actively on the front line, but the other 5 to 700,000 who are currently in rotation in R&R. They're going to be put under the command of Surovikin. And right now, Russia is crushing the Ukrainian battlefield. The Ukrainian losses are mounting, as you'd expect. Whatever slight counterattacks they're making are being swatted away. The Russian offensive is full on. They are close to taking the last fortress cities in Donbass, which will leave them fully open to concentrate in Zaporizhia and in Sumy and Kharkiv. In the meantime, the wondrous drone campaign of Ukraine is failing miserably. The drones that get through, which are few and far between, carry very small explosives and make a poof. However, in response to these pinprick attacks, Russia is now going all in. So Ukraine attacks Russian refineries, and they do it with drones carrying kerosene so that it looks like there's these big black smoke. Oh my God, Ukraine's destroyed another Russian refinery. When, in truth, those refineries are repaired and are back in action within days. Ukraine attempted to go after Russian civilian transport, Russian civilian petrol stations. There is now not a single Ukrainian petrol station left along the entire line of contact. And the Russians are continuing to move that forwards. The drone and missile strikes, switching to wild berries, the Russian equivalent of Amazon, however, was a step too far. So now, every night, Kiev is being pounded like never before. Odessa is being pounded like never before. Turkey, the US, and the global south prevailed on Russia not to blockade Odessa, to allow Ukrainian grain. Russia all along knew that was a ruse that these grain ships, as well as carrying grain, were carrying munitions into Ukraine. Well, Ukraine fucked around and they found out. They claim to have hit dozens of Russian civilian cargo ships in the Caspian. Truth is, they probably damaged half a dozen or so. But now, Russia and the Russian Navy are super hawk over this. Russia has blockaded Odessa. Ukraine, for all intents and purposes, right now is a landlocked country. Any ships attempting to go into Odessa or any Ukrainian port are being pulverized. No one's willing to sail their ships there anymore. What little men and material Ukraine is receiving, mainly through Romania, Russia's also striking that. The battlefield is being shaped, and it's been shaped for a massive autumn Russian offensive, which is finally going to sweep down all of Zaporizhia will be cleared. Then Nikolaev, then Odessa, linking up with Transnistria. These things are no longer pie in the sky. They're no longer me saying, if I was a commander, it's what I would do. These things are now in motion. In the north, in Kharkiv and Sumy, the Russians are going to sweep down and probably do a beeline for Kiev. And once Kiev is taken, they will reinforce the line, leaving for the little that's left of Western Ukraine as a complete rump steak. Now, I said rump steak, I meant rump steak, but maybe I do mean rump steak because it's going to be cut up into pieces by Poland, by Hungary, by Romania. The only thing that we don't know is what NATO's response will be. Because Merz, Burnham, Macron, and it doesn't matter when Macron and Merz change, just like it didn't matter when Starmer became Burnham. The only thing we don't know is quite how far the Zion Nazi Fourth Reich are going to be willing to go. Russia doesn't care. Lavrov has said, you're preparing for war with us. Don't worry about it. We're ready for war with you. It literally now is only a matter of time before Orezhnik start arriving in European capitals. Russia's been watching Iran very closely recently. And the US is as hollowed out as the UK military, which leads us back, I suppose, to the Middle East. We had several days when the US wasn't striking Iran. There's many reasons for that, but the principal ones are these. One, they were rapidly running out of munitions to do so. Iran shot down, and I've seen the evidence, they shot down an F-35, the so-called invincible fighter jet. Oh, by the way, the US having cut Turkey out of the F-35 program, Turkey has finally gone, well, fuck you. We are now going to finally turn to the east. And they have signed a contract to buy advanced Chinese fighter jets. There is a new security arrangement going to arise in the Middle East, and Turkey is not going to be on NATO's side. It's not going to be on Europe's side. And hey, US motherfuckers, it's not going to be on your side. They have finally decided, after 50 odd years of begging Europe to allow them into the European Union, they finally understood that Europe sees them as a red-headed stepchild. Given that fact, Trump was attempting to hornswoggle and bamboozle the Iranians by not attacking, but he couldn't because they were out of munitions. So CENTCOM is rapidly depleting all the munitions left, the HIMARS, the JDAMs, the Tomahawks that it can from um, Africon, fucking Northcom, everywhere, everywhere. And what Trump was attempting to do was once again try and extract as much oil during a ceasefire as he could, whilst trying to replenish ready to strike Iran again, as per BB's fucking orders. And Pickaxe Mountain, Card Island were all on the table. Well, Iran turned the table. And because of what they saw in the meeting between Netanyahu and the incontinent pedophile Donald Trump, last night they began preemptively hitting once again US interests in the Gulf, air bases in Jordan, secret military and CIA headquarters in the UAE gone. The American casualty list is higher than is being advised. Now Iran doesn't only control the Straits of Hormuz, but through Yemen and the Houthis and Sarala, they also control Bab el Mandab. And Ansar Allah, the Houthis, Yemen, are now considering charging a toll for passage in the same way as Iran will charge a toll for safe passage through the Straits of Hormuz. The US, under naval escort, attempted to get 3 tankers out of the Gulf earlier today, and the 3 tankers and the US naval escort was blown to shit. China, who the US was hoping would help stop Iran from striking, would persuade Iran to accept ceasefire deals. Over the last 72 hours, an unprecedented number of Chinese heavy lifting cargo aircraft have been landing in and around Iran, bringing new missiles. You see, China ain't that. China is test firing missiles into or in the Iranian war to see how well they work under combat situations. The IRGC has told the citizens of Israel, leave now, because we are prepared for a prolonged war and our weapons you have no defense against, and it doesn't matter where you think you're hiding in a bunker, it won't be safe enough. and they ain't whistling Dixie because they have good working hypersonics. Just before coming on air, we had the news breaking that a US, mhm, and some people say stroke Ukrainian, but it's not, it's a US. A US gas storage tanker. This thing is not like a ship, it's like a floating massive storage container for liquefied natural gas, which was docked at the Egyptian port of the Melita, was hit by a drone attack. The obvious implication is meant to be it was Iran what done it. Except if Iran had done it, it wouldn't have been one drone, it would have been dozens of them. And it wouldn't have been just the damage that facility would be gone. Just like the Aramco Saudi facilities have gone. So understand what I'm telling you now when I tell you currently 25% of the world's oil and gas is offline. 25%. And yet the oil price went down. I'll come back to that. Egypt, like Jordan, is a bit of a basket case. Sisi is a dictator kept in power by American money and CIA influence. The Egyptian people despise him, and they despise America, and they despise Israel, they despise what's happened in Gaza and in the West Bank. The Egyptian army despise all of it and want to be let loose. This attack on this facility, this floating facility, is a classic false flag. What they're trying to say is Iran has now violated Egyptian airspace to strike Egyptian civilian facilities. No. Sisi, a bit like Erdogan, is going to have to decide which side his bread is buttered. In other words, does he want to survive? Does he want to continue leading Egypt? And if he does, he needs to get on board with the axis of resistance to speed. He needs to join Turkey, Iran, Iraq, and Saudi in a new Middle East security infrastructure that all do not want the Zion Nazi state of Israel to continue to exist. Because, again, as I have long told you, the hidden hand, the powers which should never be, The Epstein class, the Zion Nazis, are attempting to fulfill the prophecies of the Bible. In this case, Ezekiel 38 and 39. When you go look at it and you understand where the modern countries that are talked about the alliance that will come against Israel come from, oh my giddy aunt, wouldn't you know it, Turkey, South, Iran, Egypt, Yemen, led by Russia. And this is, I suppose, where the rubber hits the road. Why do you think the Zion Nazis, the Israelis, have been working so hard in South America, toppling regimes like Venezuela? Did you see the traitor kiss the Israeli ring? Of course, in Argentina, we already know where his affiliations lie. And isn't it funny how Israeli tourists have burned down Patagonia to settle it? Seems the Nazis like the playbook that they came up with in 1945, where the Nazis, Hitler himself, probably, Martin Bormann, definitely, and several other prominent Third Reich leaders went to Argentina to set up shop, went to Patagonia to set up shop, precisely. It's almost as if Netanyahu and the Zion Nazis understand that they have fucked up and Israel may soon be a wasteland. What was Netanyahu and Trump talking about? Very simple. Trump has vowed that because of the Iranians having hit the Jordanian air bases, that, in his words, he's going to fuck them up. He says there's a massive strike coming. You can bounce bunker busters off Pickaxe Mountain all fucking day and all night. You ain't doing jack shit. You can bounce nukes off Pickaxe Mountain. And although I haven't fully run the numbers, physics suggests that if you dropped two fairly large nukes, one after another, within minutes of each other, onto Pickaxe Mountain, you might get the desired effect. Here's the thing. Iran has responded and said, go ahead, watch and see our conventional missiles completely destroy the entire region, including Israel. North Korea has said, if Iran is hit with a nuclear weapon, they will immediately launch nuclear weapons against Israel and the United States. Pakistan has said, if Iran is hit with a nuclear weapon, they will launch nuclear weapons against Israel. China is also backing Iran, potentially with nuclear missiles. Why are the Zion Nazis all rushing to South America, to New Zealand, to the billionaires and millionaires and Beverly Hill bullies of our age? As an old Pierre the Meerkat advert used to say, it's simple. Do it yourself. Go and ask AI or Google or whoever you fucking like about what happens if there was a full-on nuclear war. The answer is the northern hemisphere is devastated and becomes uninhabitable. The equatorial region will be damaged but is livable. And the southern hemisphere will be the least affected. Go figure, eh? In the meantime, the EU continues to be batshit crazy. The wildfires continue to wreak havoc in France and in Spain, but they're everywhere. Wait for the lightning. Wait for the hail. In the UK, down south, combine harvesters are harvesting wheat the earliest they have done, they say, in 50 years. They always like to put a number to it. No, it's the earliest ever. And the Dutch farmers, once again, are in revolt. But of course, you'll never see that when you're Western. Excuse me. The world we live in, people, is deeper and darker every day, every single day. Well, I'm telling you what I know. Maybe I don't know too much. Do you like that thing? Go on, parse that one out. Just be prepared. Just be ready. I'm going to close out with this. How is it that 25% of the world's oil can be taken offline and oil prices go down? How is it that billions are wiped off the stock markets in Tokyo, Korea, and even the US? And yet the great economic meltdown has not yet occurred. How is it possible? Well, the only way it's possible is not just the Trump family making billions from insider trading, but it's very clear now that Alice, who the fuck is Alice, has been manipulating the markets for years, artificially propping them up. But the longer that happens, now listen to me, because when it happens, it will happen with dizzying speed. The longer they artificially inflate the markets, the longer they keep you thinking that everything as normal, that you can still go to the petrol station and top up, that you can still go to the supermarket and top up your food. The harder it's going to be when the whole system crashes. There you are then. Be mentally prepared. Things may be a bit awry in terms of our shows over the next week or two. I don't know. There's so much going on. Alex is undergoing a heavy toll for her. I'm under a heavy toll. Glenn has a heavy toll. We will bring you shows when we can. As it stands, my understanding is there will be no Man in Black on Friday, but there will be a Lone Gunman Rides Again on Sunday, and we'll take the best, or if not the best, the fucking most idiotic of your suggestions for what you want us to cover. So if you want us to cover something on Sunday, message me or Alex. Don't waste our time, so just please. Right now, our time is too precious. I don't mean to offend anybody, but if you send me shite, I'm going to tell you to fuck off. Okay? But if you have a sensible suggestion for what you would like us to deep dive into on Sunday, we would welcome it. With that, I'm going to bid you adieu, stand at ease, and then, please, fuck the up. Alex, please end the broadcast.
I see a bad moon rising. I know there's trouble on the way. I see the earthquakes and lightning and I see bad times ahead today. Don't come around tonight, it's bound to take your life. There's a bad moon on the rise. I hear the hurricane blowing, I know the end is coming soon. I fear those rivers overflowing, I hear the voices break and ruin. Don't come around tonight, it's bound to take your life. There's a bad moon on the rise. I hope you got yourself together, I hope you're all prepared tonight. Looks like we're in for stormy weather. Wonder what you've been thinking about tonight. Don't come around tonight, it's bound to be a fight. There's a bad moon on the rise. Don't come around tonight, it's bound to take your life. There's a bad moon on the rise. There's